I arrived a little bit before 3 o'clock, just in time for the Aztec Dancers Bless event, which was very cool. Roughly 2,000 to 3,000. Some speeches by local union leaders, community organizers, faith leaders, as well as some elected officials. Again, the event started in Robert R. Church Park, up to Beale, walk down Beale, make a left onto 2nd, make a left onto MLK Avenue, and then walk back down to Robert Church Park. The people that are in the orange vest, these are protest marshals, trained volunteers. The marshals are keeping everybody secure. We've got a lot of older folks in this crowd, kids. This is not a hostile crowd. Joyful and excited. It's a beautiful day, and you can see that the road is open. Isn't any traffic on that road. There aren't any police. It wasn't until we got to the corner of South 2nd Street and MLK Avenue. There were a few that were already in the intersection, but as the last of the marchers made the turn, a phalanx of police officers showed up behind us. Sirens blaring, very intimidating. You can see the marshals there with their hands up. They're not sure why the police are reacting in this way. What I gathered from their interaction is this officer wants the marshals to try to move everybody onto the sidewalk. Now, they're covering about 3/4 of this 4-lane road. I don't know how they would possibly comply. The other thing to notice are the number of police cars that are already in the street blocking the road. If their concern is that the marchers are blocking the road, they're already blocking the road. How in the world are they possibly supposed to get to the sidewalk? That's just not a reasonable request. And again, their destination is about a block and a half away. Again, you can see we've still got kids in the crowd. The marshal here is trying to explain where this march is headed and the fact that it's nearly over. City Council member J.B. Smiley joins the conversation. He's pointing at Robert R. Park. The police officer clearly understands that that's where they're headed, and then Councilman Smiley says, let's keep going. Again, they're centering the banner so that everybody knows where they're supposed to be. Traffic is moving by on the right-hand side. Again, in this march, there are some elderly folks and some folks with some disabilities, so it's not a fast-moving group. They're now about 100 feet away from Robert R. Church Park. We're almost to the end of this march, and it's been a beautiful day, and we're looking forward to wrapping this up. The final intersection, they are in the process of moving into Robert Church Park. They all have their sirens blaring. So as you can see, the crowd is starting to disperse, but what's behind them are all of those police cars that I mentioned a moment ago. So they're forming a chain there and then walking backwards away from the police officers, moving the protesters further down the road. But the police officers in our foreground don't seem to understand that that's their objective and start rushing towards them. Keep an eye on this gentleman here. You can see that he's got something in his hand. That is a canister. Know from the picture that we saw what's going to be in that canister. He gives it a good shake, clearly intent in that moment on spraying these marshals. The first person to make contact, it's this officer here. He jumps into the middle of that line and starts to create a scrum. What's the story with this guy? He's got some kind of weapon in his hand. This is the guy in the photograph that gets the face full of pepper spray. Let's keep an eye on him. He ducks under the officer with the pepper spray, gets a little shoved, loses his hat, but then the officer sprays him, but didn't get him well enough, I guess, because he chases him down, spins him around, and this is where that photo was taken. Keep an eye on the woman in the middle ground there. She's about to get a lungful of this chemical irritant. She clearly wasn't expecting it. This officer seems to tackle her for no apparent reason. She's not engaged with any of the other officers. She's clearly just walking across. The officer has tackled her and is trying to move her to her stomach, I suppose, to handcuff her, but her leg gets pinned underneath her and she's clearly in a lot of pain. So while this marshal is getting handcuffed, there's a gentleman that comes up in the background here with the beard and the black t-shirt. Clearly they're just trying to calm everybody down. The officer with the pepper spray decides that's not okay with him, and he gives him a face full of pepper spray at point blank range. He obviously can't see. He's going to have trouble breathing. Another officer comes up and decides that he needs to be in handcuffs because he's got a face full of pepper spray, gets a face full of the hood of the Memphis Police Department's vehicle. The crowd became enraged, came back into the intersection and started to chant. Some of the local political leaders that we've mentioned began to try to negotiate. Cavalry arrived. They brought out a number of horses. You can see that the road is completely closed now, and for some reason, one of of the officers went into the crowd by themselves. Seemed like a weird choice. Now all of a sudden, here they come, and here's Councilman Smiley. We were just this close to being able to wrap this situation up. So they do take somebody into custody. One of the marshals that was detained is released. Crowd has basically dispersed, but the police still have the road closed. Strange to me that that was their primary concern. Don't seem in that big of a hurry to reopen the road. My estimation of what happened was that the police understood where the protesters were going to be. They didn't stop the march from beginning. They didn't stop them when they turned onto 2nd. They waited for them to turn left onto MLK where there was no place for them to go, and then boxed them in. Created a situation, provoked it, and then they escalated it. They attacked a number of the marshals whose job it was to keep everybody safe in that situation, including the law enforcement officers who attacked them. It was a very disappointing moment. As someone who's lived in Memphis for a long time now, I lost a lot of faith in the Memphis Police Department on that day. I hope that there's some accountability for the officers that were involved and the people who made the decisions that led to this unfortunate event. It turned what was a beautiful day, a day of celebration, a day of peaceful protest, into a day of tears. Whether you agree with any of them on any of the issues, they do have the right to assemble. They do have the right to protest. That's one of the things that they were there to protect. They deserve the right to be able to do that without fear of intimidation and without being assaulted by their local police department.